All right, guys, my beehives are out there. I'm gonna go brush them off here in a minute because it snowed last night. I'm adding this introduction. The other day when I came home from being in Italy for 2 weeks, I went out and cleaned snow off and realized they had come out because it had been so warm while we were gone. It was up into the 40s. A bunch of the bees came out and did like cleansing flight. So in the winter, they are in the hives all bundled up, clustered around the queen, keeping that cluster about 95 degrees down inside there, keeping her warm. And then it might be 70. I mean, it's various temperatures the further you get away from the cluster of the bees. But they keep that hive warm in there, even though cold air is coming in through the vents. They are shaking their bodies like and clustered together so that they're just creating and sharing warmth, and they're eating honey and the sugar I put in there. If you look on my past video that I sent out, or a couple of videos, I showed you how I made those sugar patties and that quilt up top to capture moisture so they don't get too wet. But they come out to do the cleansing flights because they don't like to defecate or poop inside the hive. And so if there's a warm day like we had, just kind of strangely, it got up into the 40s for multiple days. And then around the outside of the hive, because the sun is hitting it, it was warmer. So they probably thought, oh, it's really warm out there. And so a bunch of them came out. The problem is if they fly too far, which you'll see in the video to come, there are bees, maybe 25 or 30 yards away from the hive, just like they had settled down onto the snow and sat there. And I guess their bodies get too cold if it drops below 50 degrees and they're out too long. Then their body will just stop working and they'll just settle onto the snow. And so I found several on the hive and maybe 50 total bees scattered around, which there's probably tens of thousands inside the hives, so that's not very many. But all around the front entrances, you could see that a whole bunch of defecation. So they had, or poop, and so they had gone quite a bit. So I think a whole bunch of them came out and did what they needed to do, and then slipped back into the hive where it was warm before they were out too long. So it's kind of interesting how they survive the winters. They don't go to sleep. They're constantly awake and shaking their bodies slightly. I think they might beat their wings too. I can't remember, to circulate air. And keeping that queen warm, and they kind of cluster. I mean, there's slats in there, so they're not in a perfect ball, but they're clustered as best they can so that they're creating this warmth in there for the queen and for themselves. So it's pretty amazing how they work together to stay alive in the winter. You can kind of Google things about how bees survive in the winter, and some people use cameras to take thermal images of hives, and so it shows you like the outside edges of the hive, it's blue, and then it'll show you where the bees are clustered with that thermal camera image, because of it's red or orange, and that's where the heat is. So the cool temperatures show up in those thermal image pictures, and it's pretty interesting. So if I did that with my hives, most likely that cluster of red where it's warmest would probably move to different parts of the two big boxes full of honey, because they're moving as they eat the honey and just moving around the hive. So kind of interesting. It's cold out here. I'm going to go over there and clean those off, but from this point on in the video, it's from a few days ago when I got home and I went out there and checked, and I saw that they'd come out and done some cleansing flights, which they hadn't done that last winter when I had them because it was so cold all winter long. It is mid or early February, about February 9th maybe. And so we just had this weird warm spell right in the middle of February. So hope you enjoy the video and following my bees. Hopefully we can keep both hives alive. When I did put my ear to them, which I'll tell you in the video to come, they were both humming and buzzing in there, and so they are busy and active and alive in those both hives. So we had some really warm weather the past 2 weeks, and I was in Italy, and I just got back. I came out to check, and there's a bunch of little dead bees scattered out, maybe about 50 total, so not a ton, but some are way out. And then here's their poop. They did some cleansing flights, and droppings are all over. So I'm gonna clear this snow off. I'm gonna change the bases for next winter. This snow sits on there and it soaks in. I think it wicks into the base, and I just get a bunch of moisture in the bottom. So I'm a little nervous about that. Just how much moisture I see wicking into the wooden bases because the snow sits on here. But anyway, kind of interesting to see all these little dead bees here. And I mean, there's tens of thousands most likely in there. So 50 or so dead bees around. Isn't a big deal, but you can see they came out and did a little cleansing flight. So I'm gonna clear the snow off and tromp it down in here so it melts away. So I got that all cleared out, and I put my ear up to them, and I can hear both hives humming. So here we are in February, and they're still alive and kicking. So I'm really happy about that. Tromp all the snow off so it can melt. It's been so warm. I think my ventilation and feed and those quilt tops up in the top are working. I'm pleased to see that some got out and flew around. So you can see how far out some of them are. There's a bee there. And then here's one. And I think this was the furthest one out I saw. There's one there. There's one there. Sunk in a little bit. Oh, there's one out here. This is the first one I saw. I was surprised. So they roamed out quite a ways during those 2 weeks I was in Italy. I tried to. Italy is, you usually get two varieties of bees in North America amongst people that keep bees: Italian or Russian varieties. And where I went in the Tuscany hill country, northern Italy, it's really tons of beehives everywhere. I saw them as I went by little places in the train out in the fields and stuff. And there's a bee museum in a castle, and I tried to go there, but we got to the closest city and then I couldn't find transportation up to the castle, so I didn't get to it, but that would have been kind of fun. All right, early February, about the 7th or 8th, and the bees are alive. Exciting.